I'm good. I'm excited to get started. We're finally doing this real time on Blab.
Yes, it's happening.
Good. So let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Allison Herstein Moran, and I'm here interviewing Mira Zaki. And Mira is coming in from New York, and she is here because she's going to tell us a little bit about doing a group reading as a psychic intuitive. And she's coming to Annapolis next week, January 23rd. She's doing a group reading, and I'll post a link to that at the end. But I want to just go ahead and jump in and ask Mira to tell us a little bit about herself and what you want us to know about you as a psychic intuitive and doing group readings. So go ahead, get started.
Well, thank you. I have had my abilities since I was 8 years old. And at the time I was living in Seattle and my family was moving from Washington to California. Everything significant in my life and as far as my abilities and career all started at age 8. So there was something probably contractual that I had agreed to before I incarnated for everything to come at that age. I'm still working that out. Can you edit this?
Not on Blab, but for later use, yes, I can. So why don't we just start with you telling us, why don't we start with you just telling us what is a psychic intuitive?
No bloopers here, hey?
Well, well, hopefully our audience appreciates our spontaneity.
Candid. So all of my information comes through my senses, and intuition is actually scientifically based and backed. It exists in the brain and also in the gut, which is what explains the very commonly known gut feeling. I'm also an empath, which means that I actually physically can feel people's medical ailments, feelings, emotions, fears. I can also feel and communicate with those who have passed on, so I have mediumship as well. And there's many different ways of receiving information. I happen to have 4 of 6 in terms of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance. So those are what that all means is seeing, feeling, hearing, and knowing. And the best way I can describe that in a way that actually makes sense is it's a lot like somebody's text messaging my mind. Like they're giving me information that is unknown to me and presenting it in a very clear way in some ways. And often my information will come in through pictures or metaphors. I also just have feelings of knowing or physically feeling something again, that somebody might have a very certain chakra might be blocked. They may have a heaviness. There might be a thought that's unspoken, fear. It could be nearly anything.
So when that happens, forgive me for interrupting you, but I want to make sure people can understand. One question I think that we might have is, does it happen for the people that you're with or talking to in that moment, or could it be happening for something outside of the people that you're interacting with in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it can happen anywhere at any time and anywhere in the world. So there's no, for me personally and my abilities, I don't have to have any prior information and I don't need any tools. I like to support myself with some tools, but I don't read cards during my readings or use anything else.
So if you're in a group reading, how do you determine that the information that's coming to you is related to people that are there? Is there something that you can do to kind of help you stay connected to them in a more focused way while you're with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I always do a bit of a meditation and a prayer to my own divine team so that I'm serving the highest good of everybody, and that information comes to me clearly so that I can, this is a service and I really want to serve people and help them unblock and move forward in their life. So I'll ask for divine guidance. And also, if something's unclear, I'll just ask questions. I may get some competing spirits who've passed on that really want to speak. So I'll ask, who is this? Or does anyone have a loved one who's recently passed, or it could be they've passed 20 years ago or more.
So you'll kind of try to tune in very clearly into who in the room they're trying to talk to by asking questions in the room to help determine where will you get a sense in the room of, oh, it's someone maybe over in this direction, or there's something that might come through to help you understand who should I be looking at, as I'm asking my questions?
Usually, yes. The feeling is the strongest for me. So I can feel who, or I can feel what, if that makes sense.
Okay. So you're in front of the group and something comes, and can you maybe explain how that happens? Say someone's there that you feel like it's for them. Can you explain maybe how you get a sense that it's this person or in this area that it's?
Yeah, I will ask for clarification from both my divine team and from whomever it is.
Okay.
So I am also human and I am not foolproof. So I ask for help. I ask questions, and
Good.
Information is always for the highest good of everybody involved. So.
Okay, awesome. So, as you started to become aware of your gifts starting at age 8, can you tell us a little bit about how that's played a role in your life, and maybe how you've used it, or how it's impacted knowing what you're doing, what your path is, and where to go next in your path?
Yeah, it was essential that I had my own path of personal development in order to come to be a practitioner. Even though I've had my abilities my whole life, I've only in the past year started to really do this as a business. And it's not always clear for yourself. I have had a really enormous amount of phenomenal teachers and mentors, and I am a numerology path 5, so that means that I like information. And I have 4 college degrees, and I am an eternally curious person, so I'll always be reading and studying something. I couldn't have guessed that this would come together in this way, so that's another really nice gift that you don't get to see everything for yourself, because I guess that would be a bit boring.
or something else, right?
Yeah.
So then what about as you're giving a reading to someone? Because a lot of times people are looking for some insight about how to move forward on something. How much information do you get, and how much information feels appropriate to share?
Again, before I go into a reading, I do a little prayer and meditation so that I'm receiving information for this person's highest good and to help them in whatever area of their life that they need the most support around. And spirit is kind. So it's really, I'm a translator for the majority of the time. There are many offerings that come through that I, as the human, have access to and experience with. So there will be often book titles that I've personally read, or things I've heard about, but I may not have read, or classes that I may not have done myself personally, but that would be beneficial to whoever is receiving the reading.
Okay. So tell me about a group reading. Like, what's that experience like for people that are coming to be part of it?
Yeah, so it's sort of popcorn style is the way I describe it. Generally, there's a fear of kind of speaking up or going first, but once the first person goes, then everybody wants to go. So it's encouraging in that way. But there are a lot of general things that apply to all of us. We're really shifting in our consciousness, and we're untangling a lot of old ideas and beliefs. So often a message for one is a message for many. And then it will probably get much more individualized when people are asking their own questions about things that are the most important to them.
Okay. So do you wait for someone to ask the first question? And is there always someone who's ready to jump in and ask that first question?
Usually, yeah. Usually somebody's quite experienced and ready and has a burning question.
Okay.
I'm sure that in the social hour that a lot of messages will come, and I'll be able to tune into who is going to benefit from what.
Okay. So do you, a thought just occurred to me that it could be like a lot of messages coming through, and maybe really take some energy and effort to parse through them. Does that happen? Do you feel like, oh, there's this number of people in the room and all of a sudden there's just information overload at all?
Yeah, it's generally information overload. I've learned quite a lot from my teachers and mentors in developing, so I know how to decipher. And also, I may be quiet for just a few minutes as I'm trying to translate again, because sometimes things come in metaphor or pictures, or actually had somebody's Russian grandmother come through speaking Russian, and I don't speak Russian, so I said, I'm sorry, you're going to have to speak English if you'd like to be heard. So far, she hasn't come back in English.
Unfortunate for that person, huh?
Yeah, I do not speak Russian. I have a very good friend who's Russian, though.
So how can people, what are some of the things people can do to really get the most out of the experience?
Yeah, I think personally, have an open mind and be willing to receive. Sometimes things are a bit uncomfortable, and again, spirit is very kind. The language is very heavy, so things will come through in a much gentler, a kinder manner for the subjects that are sensitive. And I always ask if someone's comfortable with, is it okay if I share this information? Generally, my readings are private, so whenever I'm in a group, there's a bit of it's a challenge with confidentiality because everybody knows your business, but
that's part of the experience, right? Like you
yes.
come there with the idea that I'm comfortable in this environment having this experience, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just to make sure, because I know that when you do individual readings, they're confidential, but I hope that people understand when they're coming to group, obviously that's a different dynamic.
It is a different dynamic. It remains confidential to me. Ethics are very important. And I have actually asked my divine team to wipe my memory out afterwards. So they've been pretty good about doing that. So I don't actually remember.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So then this question might be a little hard to answer, but is there anything that you can share, and obviously not very specific, but just in general, in terms of how you feel that people have benefited from being part of a group reading?
Yeah, absolutely. Every unanswered question, I always say that mental energy becomes physical energy. So if we're thinking, right, our thoughts create our reality, or what convinces us of how we run our lives. Yeah. So if we're thinking about something and we're very concerned about it and it just remains a thought or an unanswered question, having an answer to a question can be a very big physical release. It's, in my opinion, is energy work. So being able to have a conversation about our concerns, our dreams, our goals, our, questions really just brings clarity. It brings a groundedness. It releases and gives you relief and just helps you move forward in your life.
Do you find that some people their questions really could lead to other questions that end up becoming a need for even more information?
Often, yes. I have repeat clients.
Okay. So how do you manage that in the group so that everybody gets an opportunity to get some individual benefit from being there?
I try to limit time for fairness' sake, and then there's an opportunity to book a specially priced private reading with me the following day.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So tell me, is there anything that you think people need to know about group readings that we haven't gotten to today?
I would say certainly keep the open mind, be available to receive, and also for the confidentiality's sake, bring up what's comfortable and what you're comfortable with discussing in front of 24 to 25 other people.
Okay. Is there, I know that something that I think might be possible, but I want to double check before I say it. Is it possible that if people are attending and they have questions, it would be a benefit to share their questions in advance with you?
They may, if they want. Sure.
Okay, great. I'm just trying to think if there's anything that I think, if there's anybody who's watching right now and you have any questions about group readings, we really appreciate your support and feedback, and thank you for the claps. We really
love questions.
Yeah, and you're very popular, so thank you for the support from our viewers. That feels great.
This is awesome.
It is, isn't it? Like,
this is my first blab.
Yeah.
Did anyone care that I cursed? Can you answer?
Yes, please. If anybody cared that Mira started with a curse word, then let me know. And Hype Social Chat, thank you so much. You're awesome. Great supporter. So no questions. Did we get to everything that people might want to know about being? Has anyone here been to a group reading before? I know one thing that some people worry about, and it's interesting because I think it's great, but I know there are people that worry about, they hear the word psychic, it gets a little disconcerting, I think, for some people. Have you had that experience?
Certainly. I've even had the experience myself. Again, language is very important and can be very heavy in our current 3D world. So we always want to understand, and that is also one of my strongest, desires in life, is to really understand things. It's part of why I like to study a lot. So if we say psychic, we want to know what it means. We sort of don't have a great reputation as far as, somebody swindling you on the corner with a crystal ball, or perhaps there has been an experience where somebody didn't really provide the information that was expected, or you didn't get the answers you wanted. We've all sort of had that. So I think one of my favorite films that really put it into perspective was the film Ghost. It was a way of knowing without knowing, but just knowing.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where she's telling her about earrings and a sweater that she wore, those are the kind of things that happen that you couldn't possibly Google this,
Back when there wasn't any.
Yes. Yes.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think the word psychic can be a bit maybe confusing, just because we want to know why. Yeah, I particularly want to know why. So it's really been interesting for me. I have a background in science to understand that spirituality is actually scientifically based. So
there are actually a couple of people with questions, which is pretty awesome. And and one of the questions we have is, are you doing a reading today or just talking about the practice itself? Which I know that wasn't what we had planned, but if there was anything that you wanted to ask about, or I don't know if you can you see the questions as well?
I'm not sure. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I think they just are there. So I think they're there for me as the host. So can you, if you have a name or anything, is there anything that would come through for you?
I'm actually not doing readings today, but
okay.
If you would like the special price for a private reading, I will offer that up until next Sunday night at midnight.
Okay. So why don't I go ahead and put in the link for that into the chat. And there actually are people, I guess, who are interested. This is pretty cool. Interested in you doing readings on Blab, which I think would be a really cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So somebody, the J.D. Goodwin says that spirituality is scientifically based. I'm a scientist. That is an extraordinary assertion. I don't think that's actually what Mira said. I believe what she said was that intuition is scientifically based. And Mira, I know that that's something I've heard you say before. So maybe if you could expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have two systems in the brain, two operating systems, subconscious and conscious. And research actually shows that intuition is part of the system that doesn't make rational sense. So whenever we have that gut feeling, that actually is literally intuition.
So could you say that again?
Yeah. So we have a subconscious mind and a conscious mind. And when we feel and experience that gut feeling, that is actually physical, that is actually intuition. So even though we don't understand it, we just know that we should trust it. Does that make more sense?
Mm-hmm. And when you say a gut feeling, I know what that experience is like for me, but maybe if you could describe that for people who maybe they've had gut feelings and didn't realize that's what was going on.
Yeah, so many times we are feeling a million things. And sometimes it may not, for those of us that are empaths, it may not even be our own. And perhaps even if you're not understanding what an empath is or knowing if that's one of your abilities, you can still feel things that are not your own. So an empath means that you feel, physically feel. This was interesting for me growing up because I thought, I want to help people. And what's the best way you could help people? Well, I want to be a nurse. And as an empath, that would have been a horrible idea. Mm-hmm. Feeling everyone else's pain, crying when they're crying. So this is a much more approachable way for me to help people without having to be involved in that industry, which I very much respect.
I wonder what it's like for nurses who probably, I'm sure there are some nurses, and hopefully they know how to take care of themselves, because that feels like that too could be overwhelming, just like your experience.
Yeah.
So I just posted the link to the discounted individual readings. If people are interested in getting one of those from Mira, go ahead and make sure you sign up for that before next week and next Sunday. And you can schedule that right online once you pay. And if there are no more questions, I really appreciate your time, Mira, and I'm excited for next Saturday. And hopefully people found this helpful. We really enjoyed doing it. I hope that we'll be doing it again. And I'm looking forward to getting to see how what people think about this chat, this conversation, because I think we both would like to do something like this again. Yes?
It could happen.
Okay. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to seeing you again on Blab.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.